So, I welcome very warm-hearted Michael Gerst, who holds a degree in forestry. Since 2001, he has been the director of HessenForst, a government-owned corporation based in Kassel, which manages, this is a wrong number, no, it's 850,000 hectares? No, it's 343,000 hectares, no? Of state-owned forest, as well as the majority of the corporate and private forests in the land of Hessia. And I welcome Lutz Hofheinz,
Hello.
who is head of forest management at the unit Hanau Wolfgang. Among his professional engagements, there were long and short-term advisory missions in different countries, including a 3-year assignment in Indonesia. And a warm welcome to Michel Sundermann, who is press officer at HessenForst. Previously, you have worked as a scientist in natural forest research projects, and you have supported HessenForst's engagement in international development aid. You brought a presentation, and please already start. I take care of water and coffee.
We also brought a movie, a short film. So we would like to play this at first, if possible.
Hessen ist das waldreichste Bundesland in Deutschland. Unser Wald ist Lebensgrundlage für viele Tier- und Pflanzenarten und für uns Menschen. In unseren Wäldern lebt ein großer Teil unserer biologischen Vielfalt. Der Wald hat aber auch große Bedeutung für die Umwelt. Er filtert das Wasser und schützt den Boden. Unser Wald ist Klimaschützer, indem er der Atmosphäre den Kohlenstoff entzieht und im Holz speichert. In langlebigen Holzprodukten lagern wir den schädlichen Kohlenstoff ein. Unser Wald ist Arbeitsplatz. Seit 300 Jahren sind wir zukünftigen Generationen verpflichtet und bewirtschaften den Wald nachhaltig. Wir ernten nur so viel, wie nachwächst. Wir sind leidenschaftliche Förster und begeisterte Naturschützer. Wir helfen dem Wald, das Klima zu retten. HessenForst. Beständigkeit, Lebendigkeit, Wachstum.
Ja, meine sehr geehrten Damen und Herren, es ist eine große Freude für
Well,
uns,
ladies and
heute
gentlemen,
mit
it's a great
Documenta
pleasure
15
for us to
zusammenzuwirken.
cooperate
Sie haben
with
in den
Documenta
vorherigen Beiträgen
15. In the
erlebt,
previous
wie
presentations, you were
hoch die
able
Bedeutung
to
des
see
Waldes in
how
Indonesien, im
important the
Amazonasgebiet
forest is
letztlich
in
weltweit
Indonesia, in the Amazon region.
Wir
At
haben
the end
eine
of the
kleine
day,
Präsentation mitgebracht
globally.
und,
We've brought
sie
a
möchte mit ihr
short
einen Bogen
presentation,
spannen,
and
und
with
zwar
that, I would
über die
like to
letzten 2000 Jahre hinweg.
look
2000
back
vor
on
2000
the
Jahren
past
hat
2,000 years. 2,000 years
bekannter
ago, a
römischer Schriftsteller
famous Roman
Plinius der Ältere festgehalten,
writer,
als das
Plinius the Elder,
größte dem
said,
Menschen gegebene
the
Geschenk
biggest
sind
gift
Wälder
given
und
to
Bäume.
man is
Und ich glaube,
the
dass
forests
diese
and the
Aussage bis
trees.
heute
And I believe that
Bedeutung
this
hat und
statement
deshalb auch eine sehr
continues to be
intensive
important
Bindung
until this
von uns Menschen
very
und
day.
Wald und Bäumen
And
Bäumen
so
besteht.
there is a very close connection between man and trees.
Bringen jetzt etwas
Now let's
näher heran, 1700
jump a
Jahre
little
später,
closer.
hat man
1700 years
festgestellt,
later,
dass
it was
der Umgang
found
mit
that
Wald und Bäumen über
the way
viele Jahrhunderte
trees
in
and
unseren
forests
Breiten
were
nicht sehr
managed
rücksichtsvoll gewesen ist.
in
Deutschland
a not
waren
very
vor rund 300 Jahren
careful
noch
way. 300
11%
years ago in Germany, only 11% of the landscape were covered with forests, and this was the reason for some people to think about how we can successfully keep more forests alive and treat the forest in a way that will also be beneficial for future generations, which at the end of the day is the principle of sustainability, which has been our guiding principle for basically forever. Over those 300 years, forests were reforested. First, it was about making the use of wood, of timber, more sustainable. In the past centuries and decades, the need for the forest as a resource or as an ecosystem has changed considerably, so we have a different view regarding sustainability today, where the different dimensions are covered. The economic, the ecological, and the social dimension all need to be brought into a balance. And again, I'd like to focus particularly on the issue of biodiversity, which is an important foundation not just for the stability of forests, but in particular for humans as a whole. Forests also have a very big importance for us as people who enjoy culture and create culture. Forests, woods appear in music, in literature, in art. There are so many connecting points that we appreciate, and this motivates us when it comes to cooperating, collaborating with you and being here today. We saw beautiful pictures, healthy pictures, and these pictures have changed in the past years. We all see climate change, and we all see that it will probably not happen in Glasgow either, that the 1.5 degree goal will be agreed in a way that really creates a realistic chance to achieve this until 2050. But what we're seeing simultaneously to this are the changes in our environment, the temperature increase, changing precipitation, and different vegetation times. I'd just like to talk about the weather that is changing. If you just look at the past 3 years, the Helmholtz Society has carried out a study that measures the dryness index, the drought monitor as it is called, the dryness index 1 meter AT in the soil. It's presented here from 2018 January until the end of 2020. And you can see in the top left corner the months, and on the other side the change that happens during this drought. The darker red, the drier the soil, and consequently the more problems arise for the growth of forests. Now this is June, and we're moving on to the fall of 2018. You know where Kassel is located. It's in the center of Germany, and we see for 2019 a very clear change, permanent drought in most of the regions of the region of Hesse, which over the course of 2020 continued just like that. All of this leads to an impact on the growth of trees. Trees suffer from the drought, from the dryness. As a consequence, bugs find a better possibility to survive. The bark beetles work on trees and let them die. And these are the pictures that describe the situation. If these trees are affected, the only possibility for the forest workers are to take these trees out of the forest and transport them out of the forest so that they don't infect the healthy parts of the forest. And the result of this process is a big amount of clearings, and these clearings are quite unusual for us in the forestry management industry in Hesse, because for many decades we have been managing trees in a way that is very close to nature. We focus on keeping trees in the forest so that it's a permanently natural forest. But these clearings aren't the only thing that we're seeing. When we look at the forest in general, we see that a lot of the younger trees are dry, and this means that a rejuvenation process cannot develop as it naturally should. And also, one specific type of tree for this region, the birch, is very much affected by these drynesses. For the past 2 years, we can see for the south of Hesse that this specific tree, this important tree, the birch, is dying increasingly in our region, and we're very much worried about this because we don't see an end to this process, and we do not see that the situation is improving. Another tree, the pine, is also suffering. It was affected by a fungus, and in many areas, many of the trees died. Everything that is not green here, but lilac and orange, are trees affected by the fungus, and we're very much concerned about this, and we see that the situation of the forest, which should actually be a potential storage of CO2 and consequently offers the best conditions to contribute to climate protection, is actually jeopardized. So it's a very important goal to maintain these trees, to expand the climate protection characteristics of the tree, and to stabilize the growth of trees so that forests are actually improving over the next decades. And there are good projects and good ideas, and I think that the next speakers will talk about the possibilities that exist here, because we also want to convey a little bit of optimism. We need to look into the future, so there are possibilities to shape this in a positive way, to make a contribution to climate protection, which is what we want to do with a lot of commitment and passion in the next years. Documenta 15 is participating in this process. We're very happy about this when it comes to our possibility of contributing to a climate-stable reforestation process of one of these clearings.
Thank you very much. Wow, I'm excited. This is just so wonderful what you creative people do and all you artists, and it's so much different to what I do every day. And still, we are all here today to talk about the same thing, which is how climate change affects the forest, not only here but also worldwide. We've now heard a little summary of the current situation, and I'm going to give you an overview of our plan for the future forests within Hessen. To understand the role of foresters, I think it's very important to go a bit back in time, and Michael Gers already mentioned it, that for over 30 years we already practice forest conversion, which means that we manage mixed forests, and we want to convert it into natural production forests, and we take advantage of natural regeneration already for very many years, for decades actually. And we strongly believe that utility and protection and recreation functions of the forest are equivalent goals. But we experience now is that climate change sort of accelerates this conversion process. And it makes it in particular difficult because these many openings within the forest that we see now are very difficult to reforestate. We also suffer from a lack of plants, which is due to the fact that everyone now wants plants, all forest owners, not only within our federal state, but in the whole Germany. Is looking for forest plants at the moment. And we also experience a shortage of skilled workers, which is also not unique to forestry, but is a phenomenon for very many companies throughout the country. Our development goals to make the forest fit for climate change are in particular that we look into the water availability, which also includes heat and drought. And we consider, of course, our guiding principles and the various tree species. And we also find protection and recreation and nature conservation goals is very important. And of course, in the past and also in the future, our goal is to provide timber as a raw material, a sustainable raw material. Just a quick or simple overview of the measures that we take in future. We are going to have at least 4 tree species in every forest stand. Another goal is to use natural regeneration, which is very important because we're not going to plant all the open space that you see in the forest when you walk around the forest around Kassel. Natural regeneration is very important for us because it's free, or nature gives it to us for free, and of course that's something that we want to work with. Nonetheless, it's very important to carefully examine it, because if you think of a spruce stand, you will expect only spruce seedlings in the next generation. So we add new varieties or new species on that stand, or on that forest stand. And of course, maintaining and developing the forest is important to give it a head start compared to leaving it by itself. Okay, so this is actually the site that we're going to work with the Documenta together. This is a forest area in the forest district of Reinhardshagen it's called, and it's in the so-called Reinhardswald. And we're going to reforest 22 hectares in total, which means round about 200,000 plants, probably. The leading tree species will be oak, and planting already starts this fall, in fact in 3 weeks. And we also are planning public planting events next spring. Just a quick summary. Trees are affected by climate change and are at the same time part of the solution. Trees store carbon dioxide, as we all know, and every carbon footprint is instantly improved when you replace climate-damaging substances. Using timber as material, as building material, and other wood-endurable products is a very good way to save the climate. So, among others, active climate protection means more forests and sustainable use of wood. Okay. Thanks.
Hello everybody, and selamat sore semuanya. It's already afternoon, and I hope you're still full of energy, thanks to the Sumatran coffee. And I also hope that you're still very curious about the activities of HessenForst. I am working in a forest management office in the south of Hessen, east of Frankfurt. It's called Hanau-Wolfgang. And I want to quickly give you some details about this duty station. It's one of 39 district offices throughout Hessen, and it's taking care of forest from the Hessen government, state forest. This is a minor share in Hanau-Wolfgang, and it's also advising communities and other forest owners. This is everyday business, and this is one of our contributions to sustainable forest management. Besides these general tasks and activities, we also are running some special operations in Hanau-Wolfgang, which is, among others, a seed center, the provincial seed center of Hessen. And we also are running a tree nursery, producing seedlings for reforestation purposes. I just want to give you a short overview on some activities and tasks on local level, descending to the ground, so to speak, to give you an impression where we are working on. The starting positions have already been outlined. We are suffering from climate change. The forests are suffering severely. We have a very comprehensive understanding of sustainability, as it was already explained. We are dedicated to support to forest owners, both government forest and private and communal forests. And we are now dealing with a unique program of reforestation. And this program is not a job for 2 years or 3 years. I want to highlight that it may take decades now because of the situation that was already explained. We from Hanau District Forest Office are going to support this program in different ways. And of course, one important contribution is to produce tree seeds, collect seeds, and process them in order to provide reproduction or material for reforestation throughout the country and beyond. How do we do that? There are many legal regulations to be observed in Germany, as you know, and there are also regulations on forest seed collection. So we are not just collecting some seeds somewhere, but we are focusing on certified tree stands. Only 1% of all tree stands in Hessen is certified for seed collection. So we are observing the trees, whether there are seeds on the trees, and then we organize harvesting the seeds. We collect them manually or with special equipment, and then we bring them to Hanau Wolfgang, to our seed center, and we process them. This means they have to be cleaned and they have to be dried, and then we store them, and some of them can be kept for decades. So they're very viable, and we put them in a deep freeze or in a cool store in order to keep them available for future reforestation activities. Tree seeds are very different. As you all may know, they can be tiny, smaller than 1 millimeter, and they can be quite big, about 5 centimeters. As you know from chestnuts, for example, they are quite big, or oak nuts or whatever. So all of them have different needs and need special treatment, and it's a very specialized job to deal with tree seeds. These seeds are stored, as I already said, and they are provided for our own nursery, our own tree nursery, but we also deliver them to private nurseries and to forest owners who may also sow them out to the forest directly in some cases. Last year, by the way, we collected about 100 tons of seeds. It's not just a bucket, it's masses of seeds if they are available, and among these 100 tons were about 63 tons of oak nuts, which are very important. So 100 tons is quite an effort to collect, I can assure you. Yeah, what else do we do? I mentioned the tree nursery. We are running in Hanau as well, and we are running it because we want to deliver high quality seedlings. Strong, fresh and healthy. And we are quite proud on our seedlings because most of them are of superior quality, and they grow better and they survive better than some other seedlings which are procured by other sources. A nursery business you may be experienced with. We prepare the soil, we sow the seeds in the nursery, many different species, as we heard. We are contributing to biodiversity even with tree species. We sow them and we have to transplant them, and after 1 to 4 years we take them out again. We bring them to our partner offices throughout the province, and they are planted to the forest instantly. Very important, since we are mostly dealing with bare-rooted seedlings, so there is no pot on it and no soil, but it's just bare roots. They have to be kept fresh and brought out and immediately be planted in order to let them survive and let them grow nicely. Last year we grew and provided more than 1 million seedlings from our nursery and distributed them over the province. even to other provinces and other forest owners. We sold some of them. This is just a contribution to the need of the forest owners in Hessen, but I say it's more or less 1/3 which is planted these days every year, and we even have to increase the number of seedlings produced in order to make this possible, to make it possible to plant that site in Reinhardswald. Yeah, finally, the trees have to be planted, as I mentioned. This needs a lot of experience. It sounds quite simple, but it needs a lot of experience to do it properly and to let the trees survive. The different species are planted out in elaborated patterns, as we already heard. They are mixed in certain patterns in order to create mixed stands with 3 or 4 or 5 different species, or even more if natural regeneration adds also on it. We always press our thumbs in springtime and in November to get good weather conditions, because we are dependent on that, of course, as you can imagine. So it's very nice if it's raining in winter and in springtime, so don't worry if there is rain. Sun will come again in summer times, but we prefer the rain in the spring. Thanks very much for your attention. Terima kasih banyak.
Thank you very much for giving us an idea of your work and an idea about how is it going on with the forest nearby, so to say. As Documenta 15, we are very much looking forward to actually really, like you already explained, working together with you, helping planting trees, and also make this public, that this problem exists, so to say. Now, we are just before another coffee break, but I would like to take the opportunity to also ask you in the audience if you have questions that you would like to ask our guests right now. Then we can immediately start with you, Herr Spruck. Please just wait a second, you will get a microphone.
Dankeschön. Ganz kurz, wann sind bei Ihnen die
Just
roten Lampen angegangen?
Briefly, when
Diese
did
Maßnahmen, die Sie
the
uns vorgestellt haben? Das interessiert
alarm
mich
bells
einfach.
ring with regard to the measures that you just
Gibt's auch schon ganz lange.
presented? I mean, we've had droughts forever, we've had the bark beetle forever, but when did you really consider it to be critical? As early as 2007, we looked at our sites and checked whether they were appropriate for the regrowing of spruce trees. And we had certain zones where the growing of spruce would no longer be possible. So it's a process that has been going on for decades, because we see what the climate changes are. We have a test site that is measuring, we see the temperatures, we see that forest trees bloom earlier, that their foliage develops earlier in the year. So for decades now we have been in this process of reconversion, but the catastrophic developments, they started in 2018. Okay, and my second question, what are the sources that you receive your seeds from for the plants that do not exist here, i.e. non-indigenous varieties? We only harvest indigenous stock and get a little bit of support from the neighboring provinces. In general, we don't work with new trees from the Mediterranean, for example. That's what we're leaving to our test sites, and they work with that.
Danke.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe I will ask later in the well, we can talk a bit about it, but I would have a general question about reforestation, because we talked about reforestation in different landscapes and also in Germany. But we know from the Indonesian experience and also from experience in others that it's difficult actually to maintain the viability of the seedlings, right? We often talk about how many million trees have been planted in certain areas. And I assume, like in Germany, we have a long tradition of kind of knowing, really documenting well, how is the survival of the young seedlings and how is the management. So I wanted to ask, in the context of the HessenForst, how are you planning to kind of long-term manage this newly established plantations? So do you have already experience in maintaining this mixed species stands? Yeah, thank you.
Ich habe das jetzt richtig.
Maybe I can start.
Yeah.
What we do is we do a lot of documentation, and we do have certain special applications for that on computers and smartphones, in order not to lose contact to these stands, because you have to observe them, of course, and have to maintain them in the beginning, sometimes several times a year, because you have other plants growing which might bother the tree seedlings. You might have animals eating the tree seedlings, small ones and big ones, so you have to protect them, and it needs a lot of effort to let the trees grow big, actually.